This is Gene Adam, former lead singer of Iced Earth. Be sure to subscribe to Podcast and Stone, and don't forget, join our community on social media. Metal lives.
What's up, folks? This is Matt Barlow, previously of Iced Earth, currently of Ashes of Ares and Sentinels, and you're listening and you're watching Podcast and Stone.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Iced Earth community, welcome to Podcast in Stone, the only podcast 100% dedicated to iced motherfucking Earth. It is my honour to announce that we are here with the previous and one of the greatest of all time, in my opinion, the previous lead singer of Iced Earth, Matt Barlow. He also is the lead singer of Ashes of Ares and Sentinels. Matt, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Matt,
for your time.
Thanks for spending time with us today. It's a real honor to have you on our show.
Absolutely. Glad to do it. Sorry it's been a while to get me on here, but just time is tight,
Sure.
I'm going to kick off. For people who don't know what Sentinels is, could you tell them what the project is about and what it means to you going forward?
Basically, the idea, the concept, kind of came about when Jonah, who's the keyboardist and composer and whatnot for Pyramaze, we did a show together last year at Prog Power. So the current Pyramaze lineup got together, and then they also asked me and Lance King to do some stuff with them on stage at Prog Power, and it was very, very cool, man. Very, very cool time was had. And so Jonah, it was actually unbelievably, it was our first time doing a show together. I've been affiliated with Pyramaze for almost 10 years, but we never did a show together. And so that was kind of a cool thing. But he approached me with doing a project for some stuff that he had written that was more metal, certainly metal based. And I was really, I don't know, I just had this kind of this idea, man. Let's do some of your composition stuff. Let's see what you've got and see if we can put vocals to it, just for something completely different. Because we were both doing metal stuff in other bands. He's not only in Pyramaze but Pyramaze, and he's got other stuff going on. I just thought it would be a really cool thing to do and fun, and it turned out to be really successful. As far as I'm concerned, it was a great success. The writing was awesome. He started just sending me stuff that compositions that he had done for a while. He was also writing some stuff in the process, but he just started sending me stuff, and man, it just these cool melodies were coming up, and I'm just kind of getting blasted with these ideas for lyrics and stuff like that. So I just started writing lyrics and working with the compositions that he had, adding harmonies, melodies, so on and so forth, and it was very organic, and it probably in about 2 or 3 months we had an entire record worth of music, basically. And then we just kind of got it together, figured out a time when we could record, and got into the studio in Minnesota, and it just worked out, man. It's really cool. It's just the two of us. He composed all the music. I composed the lyrics, the vocal melodies, and choruses and things like that. And we did some tweaking stuff like that in the studio to make things even better. And it just worked out really cool. I will say this, and we tried to make sure that folks knew this is not a metal record, but our metal influences are certainly in there, certainly with lyrical content, just the kind of the ideas, a lot of fantasy kind of stuff in there, but it's really more orchestrated. It's like we just kind of liken it to a movie soundtrack, sort of. Even though it's not, it's certainly not a concept. There's individual songs, but you can imagine these songs being placed inside movies and things like that. At least I can, and that's kind of why I was inspired by what Jonah had sent me, and that's kind of where my mind went on a lot of these things. Some of the songs are a little more ballady, a little more personal thoughts and things like that. But the the concepts are all really there. And I'd be happy to come back whenever the record comes out. Be happy to come back and explain like the different songs and things like that. I don't want to give too much away because I want that sort of that build up to be there for folks. But we have put out a lyric video so far that's been pretty well received. I think most folks are digging it. Some comments coming back, hey, like it, but it's not necessarily my bag. Was waiting for guitars to kick in, and that's just not really happening. That's not what's going to happen. So I just want to let everybody know there's not going to be guitars in there. There are string sections. There's certainly violin, cello sections, and things like that in there. Horns, all kinds of stuff, but not guitars. So hopefully, just if you're into that kind of stuff, if you like movie soundtracks and things like that, if you're inspired by that kind of stuff, you'll really dig this. Maybe if you're more into progressive type metal, maybe with a little more of that symphonic or orchestrated type melodies and things like that, you might be into this. If you're total thrash metal, maybe not. I don't know, because that's not really where we were going with it. There are heavy sections and heavy parts to it. Vocally heavy stuff. But a lot of the stuff we were really trying to I was trying to accent his music more than overwhelm it, and so I think we had a nice symbiotic relationship, Jonah and I, and we really look forward to doing another record. And maybe, looking into a conceptual thing later on down the line. So we'll see where that goes.
Now, I've been harping on through a few of our videos previously in the past that I really do believe your voice as a singer can fit multitude of different genres, not just metal. And I think from what I've heard from Soul on Fire, from that song with Sentinels, I think that's proved my point there. That the voice you have, that kind of baritone vocal that you have, really kind of, you can spread your wings and really kind of dabble in different genres. Now, I love the fact that you've kind of moved away from metal just to try something else. I think that's a cool little thing you're doing, man.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I appreciate that, and that's really kind of the area that a lot of people have said that to me before. That's kind of my sweet spot, in that area, and that's kind of what we were focusing on, that area of my voice. And it's not to say that, I'm not doing some high stuff. But, there's like at the end of Soul on Fire, I go up there a little bit and do that, but it's more of an accent. And I do a lot of, when the record comes out, you're hearing the music and you'll go, where did they get all the little girls to sing this part? Well, that's not little girls. That's me. Because I'm doing a lot more high, clean falsetto stuff just to accent and add those harmonies and things like that. Because I thought it made it just sound better. Instead of doing like a really high raging screech, just a nice clean falsetto, and it just worked out. And so that was a lot of fun at my home studio, working on those harmonies and working on those different voices and things, stuff that I don't typically do because. Most of the time I'm shooting for the stars with the high stuff because I'm trying to cut through guitars and stuff like that, and I didn't have to do that on this, So I get to lay in all those neat little harmonies and things like that with a nice clean falsetto, and it just worked out really well. So, but you'll see when it comes out.
Do you have any ballpark figure as far as when that's going to be hitting the stores?
We'll see, man. We're still Jonah's still shopping it. Like I said, the record's done. It's just a matter of a company either wanting to, take a hold of it and do distribution or whatever. It's just kind of working out the details on that kind of stuff. So I don't really have a ballpark. All I can say is the record is done and we're just shopping it at this point.
Well, we'll certainly buy it. Don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Will there be any live interpretations of this album, or is this just kind of a studio deal?
No, we would love to, and actually, we've certainly been kicking around ideas of how we can make that happen, and that's kind of part of the deal as well. And hopefully, we're with shopping the record, we would like a record company to see that possibility for it, and to show them, look, this is something that we can do in a live setting that's not going to have a whole lot of overhead for them, because typically it's going to be me and Jonah, and then potentially, somebody that does a multimedia type scenario, maybe to highlight what we're doing, and then, sound person and things like that. Obviously, it lends itself to have a much bigger production, but we can do it on a smaller scale, I think, at this point, and then maybe branch out, because it would be phenomenal to have actual real string sections and things like that. That would be a dream for me. That would be just absolutely killer. But we'll see how it goes. In the percussion section and all that other good stuff, that would be phenomenal, and I'm sure Jonah would love that as well. To hear his compositions completely orchestrated like that with individual players would be phenomenal. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Cool. With Sentinels like pretty much done and just waiting for the record label, for the metal fans out there, when could they expect more Ashes to arrive?
That's what we're working on as well. So we have guys working on getting our demo out to labels and things like that as we speak. I was just speaking with Freddie earlier on the phone. So we've got a couple. We did pretty much demoed up the entire record, sent it out to management, and they're going to take the best of what they want and kind of send it out to different labels and see what kind of stuff we get back. But yeah, it's the record is written, primarily done. I would certainly like to get in. All the vocals were done, in my home studio. I like working with a guy with a producer. So who that may be, I don't know. In the future, but I would certainly like to redo the vocals. We definitely would like to redo the drums and get them all tight and squared away. But as far as the main body of the music and the demo, it's a pretty darn good demo. But I think we can make it better just by getting in and redoing the vocals in an actual studio and things like that. That's where I feel like that's the only thing that I would say would be holding me back, is just my kind of at-home performances. I'm just not that guy yet. I'm not that good at producing myself at a home studio level. So I would much prefer to be in a studio. Maybe go back to Minneapolis and work with Rob. He was phenomenal with Sentinels. We're really happy to work with him, and that's kind of what I look forward to. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And any time, I would say this, certainly by this year is not, or by the end of this year, or not this year, the following year, hopefully before then, I would like to get it done and get it out by fall, for sure.
Nice.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to both of them. I am repping today. I am repping big time because I had to dress for the occasion.
Nice.
I do have a double whammer question. You've done a 1-album stint with Pyramaze.
Mm-hmm.
If you wasn't asked to rejoin Iced Earth at that time period, would you have gone on to do a second record with them?
Likely. Certainly likely. And it was just a matter of timing. I think everything works out for a reason, though. In the long run. I'm a firm believer of that. Good or bad, sometimes things just fall a certain way. But for the most part, things do really happen for a reason. And I think all those guys are phenomenal. I have a great relationship with everybody in the band, and I really love the fact that they invited me to join them live at Prague Power. That was phenomenal too. But yeah. I mean, that great musicians, great band, great writing. The new record is phenomenal. I love, I just love what they do, man. So it's very cool. I was, and I'm honored to have that in my discography as far as being able to work with them. It's a phenomenal record. I really dig it.
I didn't know who they were until I actually listened to Immortal. I have that as well. I didn't know who they were, and with me, it's like anything that has your name on it, I need to hear it because I'm just such a big fan. So yeah, it's just one of those things. Is it okay with you if we move on to what most people want to hear, which is Iced Earth stuff. So, watching that, did you want to kick off the Iced Earth question, Chuck? As I've done a lot of talking now.
Yeah. Okay. When you can you tell us about meeting John, and when you started with Iced Earth, was any of Burnt Offerings already written, or did you guys start that together?
I think that some of the Burnt Offering stuff was written. I don't know. I'll tell you what. It was a long time ago, so it's really hard for me to know for sure. But I do think that John had. But it was kind of a weird situation with me joining Iced Earth. There was like a really long a courtship period, I guess you would say, because John was had just split with John Greeley, that whole thing. So he was kind of hesitant as far as getting back into the band, or as far as having another member into the band and stuff like that. So it was just several months before I was given the hey, you're in the band kind of a thing. But the way that I met John and was because I knew the drummer from Burnt Offerings, Rodney Beasley. I knew him from another band that he was in down in Bradenton, Florida, because we jammed in the same warehouse area. It was a storage facility. So I guess he gave my name to John, said this guy kind of has sort of like a thrash meets King Diamond kind of a voice, and that's how we were introduced. So he extended an offer for me to come up and audition, and I did so. And it was just like I said, it was a long kind of a courtship. I just came and hung out with the guys a little bit, and did a bunch of different. And finally, John felt comfortable with me, and I guess he dug what I could do, and dug me as a person, and so that we hit it off, and then I was kind of welcomed in. But that was basically about it. And like I said, as far as the writing is concerned, it seems to me like John may have had some stuff in mind, but I know he did a big stint of writing as well during that earlier period. But it was just a kind of a dark time at that time because of not only John Greeley deal, but also there was a bad deal with Century Media that had gone on, and they were like not being treated very well for the amount of work that the number of records and stuff like that they were selling. So he was kind of pissed, and that's basically where it was. And that one of the reasons I think why, and I don't know if his opinion on it has changed or not. We haven't really talked about it in a while, but that's why John kind of looks at Burnt Offerings as not one of his favorite records. Let's put it that way. Now I have to look at it as one of my favorite records because it's like my first record ever. So I have, I kind of hold it in a different area because it was certainly a different time for me than it was for John. So, but be that as it may, I still love the record. I really like the remastering that Jim did to it not so many years ago, but I thought that was pretty nice, and there's a lot of cool songs in there, man. And obviously Dante's Inferno is just one of the things you can't kind of go away from that song without feeling something. So
right.
One another, either I guess either you love it or you hate it, but I find that most people really love it. So
yeah, Burnt Offerings is from, especially the community that we've built, is a very, very big fan favorite in the community. And it's like you're saying about the turmoil that John was going through the record label, it kind of all just feeds into the sound of that record for me. Like the darkness, the anger, the rawity of that record. I don't think that record would have been the same without that outside turmoil with everything that was going on at the time. So I think obviously so, yeah, adds to that vibe. So yeah, I love that record.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. I think that as musicians, I think every musician is affected by everything around them. So they're more of a musician is more of a conduit for reality. So everything that you endure in life, you kind of spew out in the darkness. And that's one of the things I think a lot of people see in in bands that, start doing a little bit better, start making a little more money, become millionaires. That never happened with me, by the way. But they might start losing that edge a little bit because they're happy. I mean, when you're happy, it's kind of harder to write darker music, sometimes. And for metal, that's obviously essential. It's an essential part of the feeling, and one of the reasons that it's really popular, I think, because it gives, other people, hey, they feel what I'm feeling. I'm in a dark spot right now, and I hear it so many times that, hey man, your music really helped get me through a dark time. And I think that they were feeling that thing and going, well, this is, and it's an important thing, man. Every time I hear something like that, I cherish it. I absolutely cherish it because I feel like I've touched somebody in a positive way, and if it helped them get through a dark time in their life, then I'm, I couldn't be happier. So.
Yeah, what was I going to say? What's next? Sorry. All right, yeah. A lot of fans that we've spoken to over the years feel, me included, I do believe Chuck feels the same way, that Dark Saga, Suffer Wicked This Way Comes, and Horror Show are kind of the sweet spot of the Iced Earth catalogue, where the band kind of really found their sound. What's your thought on that in general? Like, do you have a sweet spot that you're just like your favorite?
No, I agree. I think that kind of the counterpoint to Burn Offerings was certainly Dark Saga. If Burn Offerings was the darkest time, was the dark time in Iced Earthville, then Dark Saga was the light part of it, and which is weird because it's the Dark Saga, but I guess the irony is not lost. But it was just, John was extremely inspired by the concept of Spawn. He was inspired by that whole concept. He loved it. He was a fan of comics and things like that. Actually, it's funny because I went and got the band. I'm a big toy fan, and I always have been. And I went and got the band, all the guys in the band, a toy for Christmas. And I went to a toy store. I can't remember if it was Toys R Us or if it was Walmart or something. But they had Batman stuff, which I knew John and I are huge Batman fans, and so I bought John like a Batman figure and things like that, and I got some of the other guys the Spawn figure because I thought it was kind of cool, and it was in that bubble pack that the original one, the original Spawn. I don't know if you guys even recall that or not, but sure. It was kind of a cool thing. So I was handing out these gifts, and the guys were ripping them open and stuff, and so John was like, what is that? I can't even remember who it was that I got the Spawn, and maybe a couple of the guys, but he was like, what is that? And I'm like, well, it's, Spawn, and it's this character. It's about, this guy who sells his soul and all this. So, one thing leads to another. Of course, I got John the Batman, but he liked the Spawn. That's how kids are. So anyway, he was intrigued by it and started going and I guess getting the comics and stuff like that. And he was like, just inspired by that. So he was all in from that point on. And I think just writing came extremely easy for him at that point. And of course, the stuff is the melodies are there. It's just very hooky, a lot of hooks and things like that. A lot more, songwriter songs. I don't know if that's the right terminology or not, but just, a lot of cool hooks in the choruses and things like that. And we just went for it. And it was just went very popular, very quick, especially in Europe. We were on to something, and it worked really, really. So yeah, that's an extremely upbeat and inspiring time for Iced Earth. That was just
Have we lost him? He's froze.
Froze up for a second.
Was that?
Yeah, we lost him.
So Something Wicked was that spot where it was a little bit of Dark Saga meets the other stuff in the catalogs, as far as that's concerned. It got a little bit darker, but still had the hooks, and then the birth of it was just kind of a cool time as well. So I don't know, man. It's like really hard for me to pick what my favorite record is of all this stuff, because there's just so many really cool songs in there, lots of hooks, and just lots of good memories. So I'm hoping that that maybe my signal like tainted by like too much draw.
Yeah, it was. You was cutting out a lot, and then it was like rapidly catching up with you. It was really weird.
Yeah, that's what I was getting from you guys as well. So I don't know if it's my signal or your signal, but I just had I had my kids turn off the streaming television. They were watching Amazon, so I had them shut that off. Maybe that'll give me a little bit more
bandwidth.
Sorry, boys.
A little more bandwidth. Sorry, guys.
Well, sometimes I think it might be me because I'm like 5,000 miles away from both of you, so it could be me.
I'm willing to blame it all on you, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, the British get the blame once again. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. It's fine. I was saying that we wrapped up our horror show retrospective last week, and we were talking about the evolution between Something Wicked This Way Comes and the horror show records, and how we feel that, but especially those two, that transition between those two records really emphasizes the band's evolution from going, going from 10 to like 15 in terms of like epic scale, and how it was a perfect blend of music and lyrics. How was it going into writing that record, and how did you tackle the vocals on that? Because every time I hear those vocals, I'm like, how's he doing that? It's madness.
Well, it was actually kind of cool, man. And I will say this of horror show record. I think that we did a lot of pre-production, which is something that we never really were able to do before.
Okay.
Because at that point, John had his home studio set up, and I think Jim. I'm going to adjust this camera a little bit. I think Jim, if I'm not mistaken, Jim Morris came to John's, and we did a lot of pre-stuff. And that was really cool. Like I could go down and I could actually, work out melodies and things like that with John's setup, which I never had before. That wasn't even a thing. Before it was like, okay, well, here's the main melody and maybe we'll do some harmonies in the studio. So when you're doing that, it's a totally different world. Like to me now, like doing this, the Sentinel stuff is phenomenal. I can go in my home studio with Pro Tools, and I can work out all that stuff before I even, go to the studio, and I can tweak out stuff and I can play with it all day long. And that's cool, man. We were never afforded that before. We never had that ability. It was just, we're talking about going from Tascam world to, current, new stuff. So John had a Pro Tools set up. I'm not sure if he actually had Pro Tools. I think he did. But he had a recording, some sort of recording program. I'm not sure if it was Pro Tools. I'm pretty sure it was, because Jim Morris has never worked with anything but that, I don't think. But that's his thing. He's like a guru of Pro Tools. So I'm pretty sure that John had Pro Tools, but it was, I could go to John's home studio and I could sit there and work on all that stuff all the time and really work on the chorus in Dracula and doing all that, kind of cool stuff, man. It was just, it was neat, man. And it was nice. It was just really, really nice to be able to do that. And I think it really shows in that record. I think it, just being able to do all that pre-production stuff, it pays off in the end, man, whenever you have the ability to do that. So, that's one thing I can say. Plus it was just fun stuff for me. I enjoyed the idea of working on it. It was something that John had brought up like years before that. I think even before Something Wicked, and I think I brought it up to him and said, "Hey, man, why don't we do this, this concept thing?" And I think it was just like we were going to do part of it as the concept, and then John just went like full on. He was like, "Let's go ahead and do like a full record of all this stuff, because there's plenty of these characters and creatures and things like that. There were ones that he definitely wanted to do. He knew he wanted to do." The big guys, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and so some of and of course we ended up doing the modern classics, Damien, dealing with characters like that. But there were some that he didn't really, he didn't necessarily want to do, or didn't have a direction as far as the lyrics or what he wanted to do with the characters. So I was kind of given those, and I'm really proud of those. I really liked the stuff that we did with it, and then the one Ghost of Freedom, which is obviously not related at all, other than the name Ghost, but it worked out really well, I think, for that record, and we were happy with it. I certainly it's still one of my favorite records as well. So, and now my kids are listening to it and they're digging it. So that's
all.
That's all.
Right when your kids like it, man. You
Right.
Right.
It's aged very well.
Yeah.
I think it's
the 2015 re-release on vinyl is incredible. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing. I need to get a turntable because John has sent me a bunch of vinyl stuff recently that he had gotten from the re-release from Century Media. So I really need to get a turntable, but it's just one of those things. I know my kids are going to look at me like sideways and they're going to go, "What is this? What does that thing do?" But
that's when you give them a good lesson that vinyl is the best way to listen to music.
That's right. It's the sweet, it's the warmth. If I can describe how music can be warm to them, then that I may be able to sell them on it. But I'm not sure how they're going to understand that concept at this point. A 10 and a 12-year-old.
Kids are smart. I'm sure they'll be fine.
I want to go back to Ashes of Ares for a minute. When you're writing the material for Ashes of Ares, do you feel a pressure to kind of write a song geared toward the Iced Earth type fans, or do you just go for whatever you feel is in your heart at that time?
Yeah, that's all I ever do, man, is just do what I just have to feel comfortable and confident in myself to be myself, to put myself out there on a record. And that's kind of what I've always done. I certainly have. You build up confidence being in Iced Earth and things like that, and people going, "Hey, you don't suck." That's a good thing, when people. So I just have to feel like, hey, man, I'm doing what I feel the music is guiding me to do, and I do that with everything that I've done as far as composing lyrics and melodies and things like that on my own. That's all I've ever done, whether it be with Pyramaze, with doing the melodies on that stuff. That was the first time I had an entire record to myself, other than the lyrics, melodies and all that. The guys were like, do it, go crazy. So I did it, went nuts, did what I did, and that was it. And then the same goes with the with Ash's stuff. That was all, all my lyrics, all my melodies, and just did what I went where the music led me, and I feel really confident in that, and I feel confident in Freddie writing good music, and just that's kind of where it is. And the same way with Sentinels, I feel confident in Jonah writing kick-ass music, and I just want to compliment that as a vocalist. So.
Well, we're both huge fans of that first Ashes album. We were just talking about The Punishment before. That song's just brutal. I can't get enough of Punishment.
Cool, man.
That's just a great song.
I listened to that album just before this. So.
Yeah, it's just straight up metal, man. I mean, you don't. It doesn't really get much more metal than that. It's very crunchy and very thick, and obviously the lyrical content is one of my favorite characters of all time, and and if you guys have been, I hope you've been following the Netflix Punisher, because that is just.
I haven't watched it yet. I've been watching Daredevil, so I've seen season 2. So he kicks ass. He kicks ass in season 2. So I need to get on. I need to get on the Punisher.
Yeah, John Bernthal's he's done a phenomenal job, and I've tweeted him a couple times, and I haven't gotten any response. He's like he's too big a star now, but I've just complimented him on what he's done with that character. I just think it's out of the park, man. So yeah, just very, very cool stuff.
Speaking of, obviously this whole chat is basically about vocals because you are a singer. Speaking of vocals again, your voice on Crucible of Man is some of my favourite melodies. I think you sound phenomenal on that record. Is that an album that you find yourself revisiting, and that you have a soft spot for, or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think it was think it's a really, really good. It's one of those things. I think people were kind of torn because they started out the whole concept with Tim singing, and then it goes into Crucible of Man. But it was, I didn't approach it trying to be Tim. I never have. It's just it's me, and Tim certainly doesn't approach anything doing anybody but Tim. So in that regard, I think it's really, really awesome. It would have been cool to do something with Tim, as opposed to doing it, separately. But I think there's a lot of really strong songs on that record. Sometimes I don't know, it's like partly well received by some folks, and then some folks were like, well, it's just weird that Tim started doing the first record, and then Matt comes in the second, and whatnot. But I approached that record with as being the second, for me, it was the second part of it was the second part of the set Abominate story for me, because it was for me. It was a reintroduction back into that character, and just trying to take on those parts and kind of trying to be that character. Like I keep going back, man. Crucify the King that's where all the fury goes into, and that's where that I just took that character. It was just the kind of a dark spot. It was kind of hard to go there a little bit, because it was very, very, very evil. But it's cool, man. I mean, I love that. I love listening to that song and go, man, who was that dude? Because he's freaking me out. When you're sitting back and listening to it, after being away from it for a while, you go, damn, it's pretty dark, man. Some really dark stuff. And I was writing that, those lyrics for that. It was weird because it was, I had my first son was just a baby, and my wife was pregnant with our second, and it was just kind of like, where was my head going to get there? I'm a new dad, but however, I guess that was just my outlet, and it just really worked out. And John said, okay, man, here's the idea for this song, man. This is where we want to go with this. Just go for it. And so I did, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And I do have to, sometimes just sit back and go, man, I hope that people don't judge me for the lyrical content on here, because they may think very negatively of me because it goes to a pretty dark place. But again, it's like I compare every time somebody asks me, hey, man, what are you doing singing stuff like that? And I'm like, well, you're pretty sure that Stephen King is a pretty nice guy. You could probably sit down and have a cup of coffee, right? But he does some really dark stuff, man. He goes, his mind goes some pretty dark places sometimes. So that's kind of what I liken it to. Just Stephen King of vocalists. Or
you went there.
I did go there.
Now,
I am Stephen King. No.
Oh gosh, shit, we got the wrong guy. What are we doing?
I love you, Stephen.
Did you want to go? You was going to ask a question, Chuck.
I was just going to ask, how different was it redoing the 3 songs from Framing than it was dealing with the Days of Purgatory? How did you take the same approach, or how was it different from the Days of Purgatory?
Well, I just really tried to. I mean, it was different in the fact that, again, I've got my own stuff at home, and I could really work out the vocals before I got into the studio. So that was a big plus. Days of Purgatory stuff was pre doing anything. We pretty much went in there. John was like, here, figure out these songs, listen to them, figure them out, and, do your own thing. And then we did it in the studio. So that was pretty much, those were the golden years of recording. That's how you recorded stuff. On a budget, mind you, very small budget. We weren't like the Beatles sitting in a studio for a year. It was like, you got 5 days, do it, with doing this stuff from Framing Armageddon, it was cool in a way. Obviously, I felt a little bit weird about it because Tim's a phenomenal singer. I wasn't trying to tread over territory that he's already done, or redo stuff that he's already done. But I mean, obviously, I was given a job to do, and I wanted to do it with as much respect as I possibly could, not only for the material but also for Tim, as a singer and a guy that I held in great regard. So I just kind of approached it like I'm doing it again, but I have to do it in a way that accents the music, emotional as I get on stuff, and just kind of go, and I can sit there and mess with it and figure out how I want to do things differently, or how I want to do things the same even. Does this, can I do this? And I don't want to say any better, but can I do it in a way that add what would make it more me?
Have we lost him? You still
We
there?
lost him for a second.
Hello?
Are you still there? Okay. Your camera went off and you cut out and stuff.
I'm here, man. I can see you guys and hear you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Skype is not liking us today.
It's screwing with us, man.
It must be biased against British people. Damn them!
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be the holidays. Maybe because there's more people. Maybe more people on Skype. Maybe it's messing with their. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Oh.
Maybe it's British weather. Maybe it's British weather. It's nothing but raining here.
Is that right?
Wait.
That's such a surprise.
It's England. What's there surprising about it? It always rains here. What's the sun? I don't know what the sun looks like. Never seen the sun.
It's that thing that's trying to peek through the clouds.
Is that what it is? Oh wow. So I'm a bit lost of where we are now because Skype interrupted us.
We were talking.
I think we were about
with the 3 songs on from Framing Armageddon. And don't ask me what they are. I know the clouding is one of them. But
Ascension Massacre.
Okay.
And A Charge to Keep. Boom, boom,
okay.
boom.
Boom. There you go. Right on.
There you go. I actually really like that there's 2 versions, because sometimes if I'm in the mood to listen to Tim, I listen to the Tim version. But sometimes if I want the Barlow vibe, I'll listen to your versions, and they're both very good in their own way. And yeah.
Well, I gotta say, man, I love the people that mash them up, man.
I was just gonna say that.
I'll tell you what, man. The clouding, the first half of you with your somber kind of baritone sounds amazing. As soon as it gets into the evil bit, Tim just works so well. So that chop that in half and have both of you in that. It's amazing.
Yeah, I dig it, man. I mean, if we could go in the studio and do a fresh recut of like that whole thing, that would be awesome. But I do really appreciate the guys that take the time to do that and mash them up and things like that. And I certainly don't. So for all you guys, I don't take offense to that kind of stuff. I like it. So it's very entertaining for me to hear it. I come across it and go, what the who did this? Okay, that's cool. Yeah, no, it sounds neat.
Now, speaking of yourself and Tim Owens, I need to ask, can you talk us through the tracking you've done for The Glorious Burden? Because I want to hear it so badly. I know I'm never going to, but I really need to hear it.
Probably not going to, man. I mean, I will say that there's some stuff on there that I really was pretty proud of. Red Baron Blue Max, I actually did lyrics and vocal melodies for, which never heard the light of day, because John gave that song to Tim to redo vocals or redo lyrics and melodies for, which I like his version of it. It's just different. It's way different than what I did. As far as like Waterloo and Attila, those are my lyrics and pretty much my vocal harmonies that Tim just took and went with them. So, and that's cool, man. I again, I'm honored that Tim is singing my lyrics and vocal melodies, man. That's very cool. And maybe we can do it together sometime in some shape or form. But yeah, you're probably never going to hear that stuff, man. I would imagine it's gone. I think I may have a disc of stuff laying around, but I certainly would never put that out there. Just because, because it's not my greatest work, man. There's a reason that I got shit canned, so to speak. I just was not. It was not. It was just a tough time. It was a tough time for me for various reasons. It was just like I say, my head was not in that space. I wasn't feeling it, so it's definitely not my best work. That whole thing. Like I said, everything happens for a reason. There was a reason, and the reason being, it just worked out very well, man. And I will give you this a brief synopsis. So I got let go. I'm going to say let go because that's a kinder way of saying it. I got let go from the band, I think in March of 2003, and I was in the police academy in September 2003. So that's a matter of 6 months where I busted my butt to get into a police academy or in law enforcement in some way, and I got in within 6 months. So there was a reason for that. Not everybody can do that, and I'm been blessed on many levels, but there are guys that try to get a job in law enforcement for years and years and years and can't and are not able to do it. And I feel blessed that I have been able to do it. So everything happens for a reason. Not all things that seem dark at the time end up having a dark outcome is what I'm getting at. So there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to kind of look for it.
No, I'm just going to just ask a silly question. Was it painful to cut off your hair, your 6 foot of hair that everyone loves? Like,
kind of. It was sort of painful to do it because I was so used to it for so many years. And now I look back at it and go, well, it wasn't really that many years. It was like 12 years. And now since I'm old, 12 years seems like nothing, But yeah, it was a little painful, but it was nice. At the time, my sister-in-law was in beauty school, and she in cosmetology school, and their school was affiliated with a children's hospital in Indianapolis. So they were doing wigs and things like that for kids with cancer, and so all that hair got donated for wigs. So it worked again. It worked out perfectly. Yeah, worked out perfectly. Again, one other thing. So hopefully, I brightened somebody's life. For what it was, a wig. Hopefully, or several wigs. Actually, I think we had enough for a couple. Because I had pretty thick hair back then. So it's thinning out a little bit now, but back then it was good. So, but it was kind of tough, man. But honestly, I don't know if I could go back to that amount of hair again, man. That's just wow. That was a lot. That was a lot of hair care product to take care of. Looks like you're doing a little hair farming yourself there, man. So
I haven't cut my hair in like 8 years or something. So,
yeah, nice.
So, but my hair is not in good shape. But I'll probably go bald soon anyway. I'll take after my father. I'm gonna go bald soon, probably.
Well, best of luck to you, my friend.
Can I tell a story? Because I've told Chuck it, I might as well tell you it.
Absolutely.
Now, when it was announced that you were rejoining Iced Earth back in 2007, it was 2007. Am I right?
Correct,
yeah. I used to check the Iced Earth website every so often. I was up at 2 a.m. I don't know what for. But I checked it. It was just Matt is back. I'm literally losing my shit because I never saw. I still haven't seen. I never saw the band review in it, which kind of breaks my heart a little bit, a lot actually. But yeah, I'm losing my mind. There's nobody I can talk to because it's 2 a.m. So I'm just like losing my shit basically. And then when after Crucible came out and you announced your retirement, I was depressed for the whole day.
Wow.
I felt horrible. But then when Stu was announced, I felt a bit more optimistic because I think Stu's done a killer job.
Yeah. I think so too.
So yeah, but yeah,
I think Stu is definitely what definitely who John needed to be in the band right now. So that's a good thing.
Couldn't have asked for a better replacement, in my opinion.
Absolutely. He does a fine job.
Now you mentioned this show with Pyramaze that had multiple singers on there. Do you think there'll ever be a final Iced Earth show with you and Tim, or maybe Gene Adam or something? Do you foresee that in the future?
Yeah,
just a one-off.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you, man. I don't know where that I don't know where that would where that would come from, or where it would lead. But that's cool. I mean, I certainly wouldn't. I wouldn't oppose that, obviously, unless it was some unforeseen thing that I couldn't control. Not being able to do that. But yeah, that sounds like it would be a cool thing to do.
Nice. You ready for some viewer questions, Jason?
Yes, I am. We've run out of questions to ask. Well, I'm probably going to think of loads afterwards and be like, oh, I could have asked this, I could have asked that. But oh well. Yeah, viewer questions. We asked our community to send us in their questions to ask you, Matt. I was going to kick off. Richard Clark asks, has it been less stressful creating music in your spare time rather than trying to juggle a full-time band, police work, and family life all at once?
Well, here's the thing. I've never been in a full-time band. Even when I was in Iced Earth, I was never full-time. The only full-time member of Iced Earth was John, because it just that's just the way it is, man. That's the way music is, and that's the way certainly. I'm sure a lot of other bands are as well. There's usually normally one person maybe full-time into it, unless the band's really making a lot of money or something, which we never were doing. Sorry, I've got a dog coming in here. Hey. It just, I've never been in a full-time band, but I can definitely say that as far as me going out to my studio and working and doing that sort of thing, yes, I love doing that. I love being able to just get tracks in, whether it be from Freddie or from Jonah or whatever, and going out there and just creating and being creative that way, or even writing my own stuff. I've become a bit of a writer thanks in large part to Pro Tools, because I don't have to be a great guitar player to write songs. I can do certainly measures of stuff and bring it together. Now, would I actually give that to somebody to actually listen to, other than another musician to do it better? Absolutely not. But I started out like some of the stuff in Ashes, on the Ashes record. I wrote the song for, and then I gave it to Freddie and said, "Here, make this better." To me, it's definitely a lot cooler, a lot more fun to just be able to write and create, at my leisure. Certainly, sometimes the pressure is on when somebody says, "Here, go do this," and kill it. There's certainly pressure with that, but as far as, I don't know if I would necessarily want to be where a lot of bands are today. It's very hard. I can only imagine, you bust your butt to try to do a great record, which you don't get paid for in a lot of respects. And it's basically, you do the record to go out there and promote your live shows. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily wrong, but it's certainly where a lot of folks, whenever they got into music, they were thinking, hey, I can go and sell and do a record, and either have a record company push it, and I'll be able to make money off of those records. Well, that just doesn't happen anymore. Music is so fluid all over the internet, and everybody's just stealing it, that you don't get paid, man, and you don't get paid for records anymore. So because music is stolen over the internet, the record companies can't afford to pay you for a record, and they're not going to. They're basically a distribution hub now, as far as solid, either whether it be actual physical music discs or records or what have you. And one of the reasons that vinyl is coming back so well, because the record companies have figured out, hey man, at least if we can have this niche group of folks that will buy vinyl, then that's something physical that we have to sell, and we can sell it to folks that enjoy that and enjoy that type of music, as opposed to MP3, right, which I absolutely am not a big fan of. I don't like MP3. If I have the chance to buy a physical CD, or even possibly even listening to vinyl, I'm going to do that. I think CD sounds so much better than MP3 music does. I think you lose so much. There's just not as much area to store that information. Therefore, it ends up sounding very compressed and things like that. So again, I encourage everyone to buy physical music. But anyway, I think it's one of those tough things, man. I think for folks that for folks outside looking in, the music industry is a lot different. But it's very, very hard, and you have to understand that for all the bands, Iced Earth included, that are out there, and they're working really hard, man. They're spending a lot more time on the road, which is the reason that I left the band for the second time, because I could not commit to that. I was not going to commit to that. For my family. For my family. That's the biggest thing, and everything leads back to that. My career in law enforcement, things like that, that helps my family, healthcare, all these things that are very difficult for working bands to have.
Right.
And the money, the money's not great either anymore, because you're out there busting your butt for every nickel and dime. And so it's just tough, man. It's very tough. So I encourage everybody to buy physical music. That way, at least the bands can, even if they're not getting royalties from those records, at least those companies are still willing to put out their records so that they can have a record to tour on and things like that, and keep those guys, going. And I say those guys because the way I look at Ashes, we want to be able to put out physical music, and we want record companies to want to be with us and support us and things like that. Basically for our fans, we want them to be able to put music out there so that the fans can buy the stuff, and I do encourage that. But we are literally not a working band. Freddie and I are not out there busting our butts on the road every couple of months. Freddie's an engineer, police officer. We have jobs to pay the bills and things like that, and those are our families and things like that are our priority. So. But again, I hope that answered his question. I went off on a tangent. That may have answered a couple questions, but hopefully it did help out.
Don't worry, we had John Schaefer on there for 3 hours, and he goes off on tangents. It's fine.
I can't imagine that. I can't imagine John Schaefer going off on tangents. Not for a minute.
David Emsley asks, what's your favourite Iced Earth album, song, theme or story? Or is there any concept you wish they had done? So that's a lot to process.
That's a lot. How many tangents am I allowed to go off on this one? The thing is, I've always, man, I think I'm always going to have a bit of a soft spot for Dark Saga. I think Dark Saga: Question of Heaven is probably one of my favorite songs. Just because, again, it was just such a nice time, even though it's a sad story. It was such a bright time as far as being in Iced Earth. It was very things were looking up, man. The album was well received and all that, and then when we finally got to present it live, doing that songs like Question of Heaven, I Died for You, things like that, when the crowd was just absolutely like singing the record was out for a couple months, and we were going over to Europe, and everybody was singing every single song. So that, to have that, it's just in there on repeat constantly. If they're singing all the lyrics to it and everything, it's one of the it's got to be a crowd favorite. And that that's one of my favorite records. I would think. Plus, a lot of cool memories associated with that. First time touring with Nevermore on that record in '96, and talking about first time meeting Warrell Dane, who was a big he was definitely one of the guys that I really enjoyed listening to when I was coming up in music and listening to Sanctuary. Got to meet Van for the first time, and that dude is just one of those guys that first impressions are everything, and that guy is all about the first impression. When what you get out of Van from the first time you meet him is that's the guy. He's still that guy. So just a lot of great memories from that time and that record, and so that's I don't know, man. That's just one of those really cool times, and just a lot of cool music came out of that, and hopefully that answers the question. I don't know if it did. I don't even know where I'm going now.
I have an additional question to that.
Okay.
What is your favorite Iced Earth record that you did not sing on?
Favorite Iced Earth record? Oh, well, come on, man. It's probably got to be Night of the Storm Rider, right? I mean, I don't know. That's just a great record, and there's just tons of really cool. And actually, the funny thing about that, I think Angel's Holocaust is probably the first. That's probably the first Iced Earth song I ever heard. I think I heard it on one of the local Tampa radio stations, and I think it seems to me like I had never heard Iced Earth before, and it was obviously the early '90s, and I was listening to the radio program, and they were like, Tampa's own Iced Earth, and it was just like, wow, man, that sounds like really like, I don't know. I could tell the influence was definitely Iron Maiden. Definitely there's influence.
Right.
And probably I'm guessing it's probably from John's picking style or whatever. But it was definitely there, and that was probably the first Iced Earth I had ever heard was from that record. And then finally getting to meet the guys and all that, and kind of knowing that back history. It's kind of cool. So yeah.
Nice.
I would say that record, and funny enough, I was actually able to sing a bunch of those songs, so that was pretty cool. It would have been neat to go back and probably do the whole record, but it's a classic record, and it really didn't need to be redone for sure.
Going back to viewer questions because I kind of interjected there, but anyway, JP Cipriani asks. He has 3 questions because he's a greedy bastard. He asks, number one, can you comment about your songwriting process during your time with Iced Earth, specifically on the Horror Show album? We've already covered this.
We've kind of covered that one.
Yeah, we sort of covered that.
Yeah, we've kind of.
Okay.
Sorry, JP, we kind of covered that. Okay.
Moving on.
All right. Number 2, I like this question. Can you recall your first live performance with Iced Earth? If so, is there anything in particular that stands out from that performance?
Yeah, first live performance, I think we actually did like a pre-show before we went over to Europe and did these metal meetings or whatever for supporting Burn Offerings. I think we only did, I'm wanting to say 5 or 6 shows maybe. It was my first time in Europe, first time in Germany. We did this whole thing, but before we went over there, we did like a warm-up show in Tampa, and there was like a handful of people there, and it was kind of awkward, and it was just weird because at that time, man, it was not metal, not metal, power metal. You couldn't get anybody to come see a power metal show. If you were death metal, you'd have sold the joint out. It would have been like just a-holes to belly buttons in a place, just if it was death metal. But for power metal and certainly Iced Earth, it just was hard, man. I mean, maybe Nasty Savage would get people out there. I think they're still getting people out there, but it was just weird. So that was kind of awkward. It was kind of a little bit strange, but I think it was necessary. It was something that we needed to do to get through it. And then we went over and did those shows over in Germany, which were sort of awkward a little bit as well, because we were sort of getting our I was certainly trying to get my sea legs as far as going out in front of a huge crowd like that. It was definitely definitely odd. I think I was probably hiding behind my hair a little bit more than I was doing anything. I was like, hey man, I got this hair. I can just kind of hide here and hang out here for a little bit. And it took me a while to really get that confidence up. So by the time we came back for in support of Dark Saga, I was there. I was pretty much a big giant ham on stage at that point, I think. So it's been that way ever since. So I just really enjoy it. I learned to kind of press that button and just become that other guy and get up there and do it. And it's fun. But yeah, that's the one that I think that show in Tampa that with like five people, and that was probably not. Oddly enough, I always talk about this one of the worst shows ever. I don't know exactly what happened, if it was one of the local promoters or what have you got the wrong night or something. Anyway, but we ended up playing in Toledo, Ohio. I think it was maybe on the Something Wicked tour, and there was like 5 people in the audience. I shit you not, man. And we were But yeah, my wife, it was one of them. But it felt like Spinal Tap, man. It was like hello Cleveland, except like
That's funny that you mentioned that, because I'm from Cincinnati and you guys came on the Something Wicked tour twice.
Yeah, man, Cincinnati rocks,
and
dude.
The second time there was only like 9 or like 12 days, before. When it was announced, and there wasn't a lot the second time because there was just no time. There was only right. Like a week.
Well, I think that's probably what it was. I think it was a promotional thing. But the thing about Cincinnati, man, I don't think we ever had a bad show there. Even if there was a smaller crowd, they were crazy. Although that one, what was that club, man, that had the ceiling that was about a foot higher than my head?
Annie's.
No, yeah, right down there by the river, right?
Yeah, Annie's. It's called Annie's.
Yeah. I got my hair. There's like probably still my hair in that ceiling stuck in there somewhere. Because doing the windmills, man, it would always get stuck in. That was fun though. That was fun.
I've got no fun story about that time because I didn't know the band at that time. I was too young, and they don't come to the UK very often during that period. So I was like, I was just lost out.
Moving on, Jason. Moving on.
JP's third question. He asks, "What is your favourite Iced Earth song to sing live?"
To sing live. Well, I would say probably one of my favorites, and I think it's a crowd favorite, and it's usually one that we start off with is "Burning Times." I really like that song. It always gets the crowd pumping, right out of the gate. And usually people are shouting back at me, with that one. So that's always a cool one to do. There's any number of songs, man. It's really hard to pick one. That one's like the first one that pops to mind, but there's others. Obviously I've already talked about some of them. Question of Heaven, is great. Any of the power ballad type stuff is usually very emotional for me and for people in the crowd. So all that stuff is really, really cool, man. And I've just had if it wasn't for the people that enjoy this music and that are touched by it, it wouldn't be the same. And that's the sad part about it. And that's something that I feel badly for people that are very creative people that don't ever have that opportunity to get out there and get their music out there and have people experience that and kind of throw it back at them. Because when you do feel that, it is something just absolutely amazing. And I hope that everybody who's an artist can feel that at some point. Everybody that's a musical artist in one way or another, at least one time, because it really is an amazing thing.
Great.
That is cool. I have a double whammy question from Sean Green and John Baylor. John Green asks, do you still keep in contact with John, and do you follow what Iced Earth is doing at all?
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I email and text John occasionally. And my wife, obviously, it's her brother, so they keep in contact. as far as following, I do get, I'm just like everybody else. I got my news feed and all that other good stuff. So I get, pop-ups from Iced Earth pages and things like that. So I do keep in touch with them on that level. But again, I'm kind of in my own world and my own universe, oftentimes. And I know, John is as well. So we don't always keep up with one another, but we try to, at least touch base now and again. And the respect is there, I think, on both sides, and it is, it's the way it is with, I would say, with any family. Sometimes you have that, you have those separations and things like that. You can't always be in contact, but I do keep up with what they're doing. And like I said, John just sent me some of the vinyl re-release stuff recently, and very grateful to that. And it may again inspire me, encourage me to get a turntable. So we'll see how that works out.
Do it.
Nothing like peer pressure. Thanks, man.
The British are great for peer pressure. Don't worry, it's fine. It's good. And to follow that up, John Baylor asks, what are your thoughts of Stu Block in Iced Earth?
Oh, I like Stu, man. I like Stu a lot. I think Stu is a really good guy. Had a chance to tour with him a little bit back in the day. So I know Stu. I know he's a good dude. I know he means well for everything and for metal fans, and does everything that he can as far as bringing Iced Earth and bringing Iced Earth music to people, and doing a very good job at it. So very, very cool. Very excited about that, and happy for him and happy for John again, because I think that Stu was really the guy that John needed to keep Iced Earth going in the right direction.
And from what Stu told us when he was on this podcast a little while ago, from what he told us and for what you've told us about your really early days in the band, it doesn't sound like an easy task to be a member of Iced Earth, to get through that first barrier.
Yeah, no, it is, man. It's hard, and I understand it's hard for fans as well. I know the people that are purists and things like that. It's really tough for people to get used to me over John Greeley and all this other stuff, and it's hard for people to get used to Tim over me, and it's got to be really hard on Stu, man. He's got a lot of folks in front of him that did, I think, a pretty adequate job. So let's certainly give him that, and I think he does. I think he does the music a great service. So
for sure.
There was an interview I watched not too long after they put out Dystopia in 2011. And they asked him how does it feel to follow Matt Barlow and Tim Owens? And he's just he's mental. They're like gods to me, kind of thing. He was losing his mind a little bit. I thought that's quite heartwarming to see him kind of just a bit worried a little bit. But I think he's been very well received from fans.
Oh, I think so too. Because he's got the tools, man. If he got the tools, there's no issues there. So.
But I do believe that there's too much of this comparison bullshit.
Oh yeah, there's going to be that, man.
Yeah,
I think there's
nature of the beast.
Yeah, and I certainly try not to play into that, and I usually I don't know I try not to harp on people's opinions as far as that. Everybody's going to have an opinion, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. But when it gets nasty, it's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't mind people having either liking me or liking Tim or liking Stu better or whatever. But when it gets nasty, which it doesn't need to,
right?
Really, because I'm here to tell you, me and Tim and Stu, I guarantee, could sit down at a table and have drinks together with absolutely zero animosity or zero, I don't know, competitiveness. We
right.
None of us. I don't think either of us. Either of the three of us have that in us. That's just not part of who we are. So everybody can have an opinion who they like, but please let's keep it classy.
Yeah,
Right.
on this podcast on our Facebook group, we really push the idea that there's no wrong answer. You know, like there's going to be opinions everywhere. You know, and where I am, I try to be as neutral as possible because I feel when it comes to the five singers that have been in Iced Earth, none of them are alike. You know, Gene Adams very different to John Greeley. John Greeley's very different to you, Matt. You know, Tim is very different to everybody else, and Stewie's got his own. You all bring your own kind of personality to the records, and I think they all can be listened to and enjoyed in their own way. I don't think why there's. It really gets me angry when I see these infighting between fans like, Tim Owens is better than John Greeley. If you don't agree with me, you're wrong. I'm just like, why is it?
Yeah.
Why is it happening?
That, the only thing you can do, man, in that is just if you want to insert yourself into that conversation, is just try to be as positive as you can. And it's really hard for people to battle against that. If you just kill them with kindness, that's the best thing to do. Say, hey man, I really appreciate your opinion on that. That's cool. But this is my thing, and that's it. Some people you're never going to change, what their opinions are. I just, hopefully, hey man, just it's all good. Everybody, I think it all comes from, everything that we're doing is coming from a place of love. We're not trying to compete. We're not doing any of that stuff. It's just a matter of let's all get along, and it's all good, man. There's room for everybody on this boat.
Sure is.
Hell yeah, man. Final question of the day. Christopher Olofsson, I think I pronounced his name right. He asks, when you rejoined Iced Earth, did you have a feeling that it was only going to be temporary, because you wasn't going to be able to tour as extensively as you would like?
Well, that's kind of the funny thing. At that point, that was the prerequisite for me to rejoin the band from John was that I was going to be able to keep my career, not my music career, because I didn't consider that even a part of my career at that point. But the thing that pays my bills, keeps my kids in healthcare and all that other good stuff, that's my career. So I went back with the band, with the knowledge that I was going to be able to work shows and things like that around my schedule, my work schedule. And John was cool with that at the time. Well, as we were talking about before, the music industry has drastically changed, and it came a point within a fairly short amount of time. I think I was back with the band, so I was with the band for essentially 3 years. Just in that amount of time, the industry turned on its head, and it was absolutely essential for John to keep the band going. He needed to tour full time because he wasn't going to be making money with records anymore. It just was not going to happen. So
Right.
he basically said, "Look, man, I want to do this. I want you to come along with me." And it just never worked out with the numbers, man. I could not justify sacrificing what I had worked for and where I was with my family for going out on the road that much. And at that point, he was expecting to be on the band, 6 months a year or more. And I know that sounds like a dream for a lot of people, and it is. It is a dream for a lot of people, but it's usually a dream for young people that don't have families. Because it's really, really tough to be away from your family. It was tough enough for me to be away from my family at the time that I was, and quite frankly, and this is the funny part of it, the irony of it. I toured more in support of that record, the last Iced Earth record that I did, than I did for any Iced Earth record that I did before. And you can look that up as far as the numbers. As far as the number of shows and things like that, we did more tours, man. And I was able to work that out with my schedule, so that I could work. And I guess it's kind of the benefit of the schedule that I work now, that I was able to do that. I could take vacation time and things like that. But we toured a lot, man. We did a lot of festivals. We did a lot of touring in the U.S. and throughout Europe, more so than I did in support of any other Iced Earth record that I had. And that I'm affiliated with. So but ironically enough, again, it wasn't enough. It's just not enough. Right now, bands have to tour, and they have to tour to make money and to stay alive. And that's just the reality of it. And it was just not a reality that I could do. It wasn't. I could not justify, even with the money. And I'm not saying that that the money wasn't offered and things like that, but I couldn't take that chance, man. I could not take the chance for my family and everything else to go out on the road for that much and to not have those kind of I don't know, that security that you have with a career, with a quote unquote normal career. So
Right.
That's just where it was, man. It was just but again, things happen for a reason. And now John has Stu Block, who's kicking it, who's knocking it out of the park. They're able to tour. They're able to do records together and stay out there on the road and I think doing pretty well as far as I know. I don't know. I don't talk to John or Stu or anything like that about that aspect of it. But they're they are putting out records and they're doing things. So
Yeah, there was an interview with John on the Eddie Trunk show, and John actually said that, well, John claims, I'm guessing he will know, he said that Stu Block has toured more than all the previous singers of the band combined.
there's no doubt in my mind.
So that
There's
just
no
shows
doubt
how
in my
much
mind.
they've toured since Stu's
Exactly,
entrance.
because that's what you had to do. And the sad part about that is if we would have been on that idea earlier when I first came on with the band, then we would, if we would have been touring more often, I guess maybe we would have built up and been a little bit bigger and been able to do more, and I would have been that guy. But at this stage in my life, I wasn't going to be, and that's why I say I think everything happens for a reason, and Stu is with John for a reason, and that's to keep Iced Earth going, and he's doing a phenomenal job. So that's where it's at, man. That's what it's all about.
I think it's that's very honourable, Matt, and I respect you for that, man. It broke my heart when you left, but as such is life, I suppose, and people move on and stuff. So yeah, wrapping up time, I suppose. Thank you ever so much, Matt, for coming and chatting with us today. It's been a blast. It's been an honour for me. Like, you're probably one of my favourite singers of all time. Like, your vocals are just, your voice has been in my life since my early teen years through all my adult life. Like, I've been hearing your voice through the multitude of records you've put out. So I thank you for the music you've brought, man. It's fantastic.
Oh, man. Well, it's my honor and my pleasure, man. Thank you.
Also, thank you for your continued music. We are big supporters of physical product, and we will always support all your products. And we can't wait to have you on and talk about Sentinels in great detail when it comes out. And again, thank you for everything you do for the fans. And as a father of 3 sons myself, I totally get wanting to stay home with the kids, and I'm just happy for what you are able to give us. So just thanks so much for being part of our year-end special. This is our last podcast of the year, so we're going to go out with a bang. So
very cool, guys. Thank you so much for having me. And again, I will definitely keep in contact and let you know what's going on with Sentinels and with Ashes.
Okay.
Everybody that's been watching, be sure to check out Sentinels and Ashes of Ares to keep up to date with the goings on of Matthew Barlow, one of the greatest singers of all time. Thank you, Matt. Thank you to my co-host Chuck Hoskins. Thank you very much, sir. Everybody, thank you for watching. This has been Podcasting Stone. We'll see you next year. See you later.